This meeting is being recorded.
Darn right it is. Here we go. Hello, can you guys hear me? All right, and can you see the slides? It's a beautiful thing. All right, cool. All right, guys, North Regional Tribe Call. We're gonna rock and roll. Talked about what this is. A tribe is a group of people connected to one another, connected to a leader, and connected to an idea. That's by the one and only Seth Godin. Really just an opportunity for us to gather once a month here in the Northern region as the Pride that we are now calling ourselves. It's designed for us to share, strengthen, and solidify our efforts in becoming the best at running safe, clean, and fun Sky Zone parks. That's the goal. That's what we're going after. And so when doing this, we often will share with one another, not only just pro tips, but really some of our struggles and what maybe some others within the 5 parks here are doing to try to navigate some of those difficulties. And there's no reason why we should ever feel like we're on an island, but that we can help each other out and source from one another's strengths. And so that's something that we are intentional about, and that's why we do this once a month. Beyond that, guys, our vision here, a little bit different than our leadership vision that we have, dare I say, a little bit more pinpoint, not nearly as exhaustive as the leadership vision, but it's kind of hand in hand, striving to establish quality parks that are operationally excellent, that are safe, clean, and fun, to cultivate teams that act with total integrity and love what they do. We believe in building from within, holding to standards, and growing responsibly. Beyond that, guys, want to just do some house cleaning items here. Just kind of hit these real quick. I recently told you guys that we have the weekly recap sheet that was recently updated. Would really like that to begin being done again. I know it was a little out of date there. Largely, I was doing it on my end just because we had obviously some new GMs onboarded, especially with Tyler most recently, but wanted to get back in the habit of doing that versus me kind of doing it and having it done by the latest 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central on Tuesday. I don't mind if you manage this down, but again, you can't manage the responsibility off your laps, so to speak. It needs to be done and done well, of good quality and accurate. This weekly recap is not just to have you guys do more office work. It's really just for you to kind of tie back to the actual results in your park. I know we got plenty of automated sheets, and Shannon's just done a work and a wonder in that area, but it's really important. You know, it's actually an important piece of the puzzle for us to actually look at things on a week-to-week basis and know kind of how the week's going to look and just be intentional about it. So that weekly recap sheet does that, I believe, as it talks to things from incidents all the way to are we ready for the week ahead, for the weekend ahead, with just materials for concession items, so on and so forth. So please get back in the habit of doing that. It needs to be done by, like I said, 9 a.m. Central, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. So if I'm you, just get it done on Monday. You can manage it down, but ultimately it needs to be accurate and on point. If you have any questions about it or you're having a hard time accessing it, let me know. I know it's a Google Sheet, so you'll need a Gmail in most instances. Wrapping up SMG callback alerts, Wade did a great job on touching base on that during the park leaders call on Tuesday. Really, a lot of what we discuss here is tied back to just SMG, right? That's a big part of what we talk about here is being guest obsessed, being about making it right with the guest each and every time. So I won't go into details on wrapping up SMG callback alerts, just leave notation, be on it. Again, won't add to or take away from what Wade said on Tuesday. Just kind of, again, house cleaning item. Please send an updated succession plan bench report by 9/1. That is next Thursday. Seems like a quick turnaround, and maybe to some degree it is, but the reality is we should have a better handle now than ever before, with the exception of Tyler, as to who we have and where we have them, especially as we near the back end of the summer here. We're losing bodies to going off and away to college. Some of our leads are kind of aging out of the lead program, so to speak. we probably have a better handle now than we normally would even on our bench reporting succession planning. So that's next Thursday. Please have that updated and sent over to me. That way we can kind of keep it front and center, especially before we get into that fourth quarter come October. And then last but not least, and just the same, very important though, is incident emails, guys. Completion for all incident steps within the proper amount of time. This is a big one. It's the one thing that when we've taken as a network, we've taken largely the incident reporting piece off your table as far as the callback goes. You guys don't do that. Whether I agree with that or disagree with that, the reality is you guys still have to own that up until the finish line, which is me doing that callback. And when you don't have to necessarily do that callback, it kind of puts you in a position, at least just my take on it. Maybe there's less ownership seen there. The reality is, if you or I and you were doing that callback, you'd want to make sure that everything is really set up properly on the back end, so that if you were the one making that call, you have total confidence in what you're looking at, what you're reviewing, and what you're getting yourself into when you make that callback. So please make sure the incident emails are going out, right? Park alert emails are going out as needed. Some parks are really good at this. I know some parks were struggling with the email itself. If you're having those issues, please communicate that. I've seen one park or two parks rather that had issues with the manager email itself. And I think that's been resolved. If it hasn't, now would be the time to say something. That way we can make sure we get the incident emails going back out the way they're supposed to.
The manager.canton email is still getting gummed up because it's kicking back telling me that it's forwarding to another email, and Cody tried to troubleshoot that and it's not working.
Okay. Awesome. I mean, not awesome, but it's good to know. That way I can follow up with Bree. I think I saw communication from you to her and I was copied on that. So we'll see what's going on there. That way we can kind of get that rocking and rolling again. Largely because it puts a measure of demand and expectation on those things getting wrapped up. And to some degree, I may not even know there's an injury if I don't get that email, and you yourself may not know either, right? So it's kind of one of those first steps we take to ensuring that we get player link locked and loaded and ready to go. And I definitely want to be all over that. So any questions about the incident emails or really the completion of those risk items by anyone on the call?
Should we expect when we send out an email, should we expect from anybody like a got it or anything like that? Or just, because I have my first month or so, I was getting like kickback from it, but from the email itself, like I was saying that it wasn't going through. In the last couple that I sent through, I sent them, didn't receive anything back, and just assumed that everybody got them.
That's a great point. And it's even better to know that you're having sort of that issue too. We'll have to figure out what's going on there. I mean, we definitely can. I think that that's totally within reason. I know we try to put a lot less in writing, but a simple "I got it," we got it, just to kind of put some resolution to it on your end. Just hey, at least that part's wrapped up of this. I totally think we can do that. I mean, I definitely can agree to do that on my end. And if it got to me, then it got probably to everybody else. So I can definitely do that in the future for sure. That's a good point. Awesome. Any other questions about incidents or really any one of these 4 bullet points?
Weekly recap sheet. I think I sent you a message about this earlier. That is the Northern Region sheet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I relabeled it. I added some things. I changed it up a little bit, but yeah, it's the same one. It should link to the same one at least, but I changed up the title of it. I kind of changed up some things on it, but yeah, if you're having issues accessing it or something, just let me know. I've been doing it on my end, and with the automated reporting that is coming from Shannon, that I know you guys are looking at, the totals on the month, so on and so forth, sort of that dial-up report. It does a lot of the work for us, but putting it in that spreadsheet is just sort of an exercise, not hopefully in futility, but an exercise that helps kind of hone your eyes and really your management team's eyes on some of those items that are just really important to the business. And otherwise we might find ourselves just not looking at as closely. So awesome. Very cool. Well, let's rock and roll. Let's move on. So becoming guest obsessed, really the goal, right? We keep putting new attractions in, and we work for innovative heights, and innovate. It's one of those core values, and we work for Braun, right? So thankfully we'll continue to innovate, but all the innovation in the world won't matter so much if our people are not on their game and really driving the results of guest obsessed and being all about that guest experience. So kind of what we've been doing with this call, we've only done one other one, but just a reminder, when it's your turn, really lead the discussion. You'll have a little bit less than 8 to 10 minutes just because we're kind of pushed for time today. Got a little bit of a late start. We probably won't need all 8 to 10 minutes, but you'll cover your section, and you're not being asked to talk the whole time, but you will facilitate the discussion. I'll assist as needed, even if that's to kind of move things along, to kind of keep on pace, keep on time. Some items you might want to cover would be, how are you keeping score in your park? How does your team know you're winning, essentially, right? When you're doing well. What opportunities do you have? How does your team know when you're not doing so well in that area? And then what pro tips, creative approaches are you using in your park? Not any one person has all the answers, but I think collectively, with all of us on the line here, Wade, myself, and the 5 of you, 7 of us in total, right? A lot of experience here on the call. I believe we can get most, if not all, answers to the questions that are being thrown out there. So really want to keep that on, and we'll kind of move from there. And we'll start up with Seville Swain. You brought up the rear last time. You're bringing up the front now. Kudos to you. Been with us since June 2022. Been, I'm sure, a long couple months, but I think a really good couple months there in Madison for you. So I'll have you talk about ease of check-in.
Yeah, I'm still on the conference call. Give me okay, give me 1 second. I'll come out there after the conference call, okay? So the ease of check-in. So for when I first started, how they were doing it was they were doing it on the first page that comes up where like you fill in information if you want a membership. So we just use the world now, and it's about like people working as a team. So one person is doing the check-in, the fuel zone person, when they're not busy, slides over, they're getting wristbands and socks. It's just to keep the jump time that they checked in for and just to make it look super, super smooth. But without that team up there, that's what I've noticed is when it's one person doing check-in, the things that take the longest is they're doing it step by step. So it's like, okay, check-in, waiver, payment, socks, wristband. And so I was just like, if everybody can help out when we're busy up front, like 2 salespeople, I have 2 people for fuel zone usually. And so the 2 people are checking in, the other 2 are getting wristbands and socks. And then I usually float and help people with waivers, make sure that that's the first stop, because it's really sad when they come up and they're like ready to pay and then they haven't filled out their waivers. You can just see it on their face. They're like, oh, this process isn't that easy. And it actually is easy. If you catch them coming in the door on the greet, direct them to the waiver station. And then, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And just so you know, the scoring here is just reflective of the scores that I have there are from Tuesday's results that Wade sends over for the going for green. And the negative or the positive is tied back to what we last had on the last call. So that would have been whatever I grabbed from that Tuesday's going for green. So again, kind of in order here, various stages of development and growth and where you're at. Collectively, obviously, we're seeing sort of a downward trend on ease of check-in, and there's probably a number of reasons as to why. Sometimes it's just the capture and the timing of it, but Madison kind of sitting there with a +3. Everyone else kind of the negatives there. Didn't pick you for that reason, but it just kind of funny enough worked out that way, ironically. Now, Shelby, you have a higher score just overall. You came down 11, but still, close to 60%. What are some things that you've implemented? And some of it's just lobby logistics, being closer to that front door, sometimes just your layout. But is there anything that you're doing specifically on your end to continue to drive that ease of check-in?
It comes from the stuff that Seville was just sharing, as well as the layout of the lobby. Greeting to me is so huge because in my lobby, you can catch them coming up, and you can catch them right at the door, and that helps with the ease of check-in. And one thing my team was doing that I'm just putting a nix on is they were just handing the wristbands. And it makes a big deal when you're making sure those wristbands you are putting those wristbands on and taking it off the parent's plate. But the teamwork element of it, I feel Shelby does a decent job with that.
Awesome. Awesome. No, you guys do. You definitely do. And really, I echo everything that Seville said. It's a big piece of the puzzle. Ease of check-in, right? It's right up there. I mean, it's one of the first things that they're walking into from a park standpoint is how easy is this going to be? You know, from a frictionless experience, they're largely walking into a park and they're looking just to have a great time as a family of 5, maybe the one time they get away on the weekend for the month. And we want it to be as frictionless as possible. So thank you guys. Appreciate that. Beyond that, we're going to move on to Devin here, just from a timing standpoint. Again, some of the newer GMs on the call here, Seville and Devin joined up around the same time. Want you to talk about greeting, and I don't think he's on right now, right? Devin's still not with us? Oh, there you are, Devin. I see you now.
I'm on, yeah.
How's the internet going for
I
you?
got my issue resolved. Good. It just went out for no reason at all. So, like, we had no phone, no internet, no nothing. So, yeah, I had to go and be on the line with Comcast. And, yeah, it was about what you would expect dealing with Comcast over the phone.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's always fun. So I'm going to get us back into spot here for greeting. Yeah, so want you to talk about greeting, and take note. Obviously, we have had parks come down, and some parks have come up, or one park in particular has come up since we last talked last month. But regardless of where you sit on that, being kind of that 4th spot, what are you doing to affect change or bring about change in your park as far as greeting goes?
The biggest issue with us is that when we're at our front counter, people are greeting. I sit and listen for it. The issue though is, and this is something I've talked with Lance about, we have kind of a social club culture here. So it's been really tough to be breaking that, but we're making strides. And so what would happen is like we would assign a lead, and then we would have somebody assigned as a cashier. So the cashier might be over in fuel zone helping somebody, and then the lead would leave the front because there was nobody there to go talk to the cashier. So we've been getting people to kind of realize, like, if you're in fuel zone, that's where you should be assigned. If you're the cashier, you should be assigned to the front counter, so that we have somebody greeting. We've also been using the hourly rounds checklist. So when I'm training people on that, I tell them, if there's nobody in the front, that's a great time, because we have a pretty big lobby area. So it's a great time when there's nobody in, that you can go out and start cleaning that area up. And then if somebody walks through the door, you're the first one to greet them. And what I've been doing is kind of teaching them that, I'm like, when it's slow, and let's say we've got 2 cashiers on, if you're the one out at the door cleaning, when the person walks in and you're the first person to greet them, when they come up to the counter, they're going to come to you because you've already established that relationship with them. And if they then buy a membership, then that bonus that you get for selling those is going to go to you and not the other person, because you took the initiative to come out from behind the counter and greet them as they walked in. So it's been like I said, it's been a little challenge to kind of break the social club aspect. We're doing better at it, but that's the 2 things I would say, is using the hourly rounds checklist as a way to get people to come out and do that cleaning, but have that mindset of, I can use this as a chance to greet people as they come in. And then also assigning people to specific roles.
Yeah, I love it. 12 systems, right?
Yep.
Or that 12 systems, right? Why not incorporate that into it? So that's excellent. Awesome. Any questions for Devin on greeting? Anything specific? Any challenges on greeting, just for the group to talk through? So what are we doing
honestly
when, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I honestly struggle at getting them to come from behind the darn register. It
Yeah. Too busy being busy behind the
drives me
counter.
crazy, but getting them, if I'm not, huh? What'd you say?
Oh, your internet, you're kind of going up and down. Or my internet. I was just going to say, they're too busy looking busy, right? Behind the counter.
Yep. And like, and you can see, I've lucked out and I have a lobby where you can see people coming from either side. You should be able to rush out there and get the door. But I do struggle because of that social looking busy and the thing that Devin was talking about. It like I can relate to that. So I do struggle with that a bit.
Yeah. I was going to ask 2 different questions, but trying to decide on how to position these 2 questions for the team here. I guess the first would be, what are we doing internally as MODs, as the quarterback, when we see those, not just at our front, but really anybody walking across that front that could totally be greeting, not greeting, and just kind of walking past it? How are we positioning ourselves? Maybe what are some of those conversations we're having with our team about that when it happens?
I mean, it's really just making sure that obviously, one, you're physically present. It's one thing to be in the building. It's another thing to be engaged, and be in that general area. One of the big things that I'm constantly doing is, I mean, I will walk around with the backpack vacuum or the handheld vacuum, and I'll be cleaning up kind of that entrance area so that I also have that opportunity to engage with that guest right out of the gate. But it's having, a cashier group that, you guys are hitting the nail on the head. They're more focused on, socializing, kind of being buddy and catching up, on their crazy weeks, rather than engaging with staff. And so it's really just following up, making sure that they understand what the goal is. And the goal is to engage the guest, because if you engage the guest from the time that they walk in, there's a higher probability that you're going to get them to ask, the follow-up question. When we ask, hey, are you using your membership today, or are you paying to jump? They might say, hey, I was paying to jump, but what is this membership? They might be more willing to engage with, the icy add-on. And it's engaging those pieces, because then later on, if there is an issue, they're more prone to come back up and say, hey, Patrick, I'm having this issue. Is there any way that you can help me, rather than, it going to social media, or we find out about it from an SMG review. And then, it's as I talked about with some of my managers yesterday, it's kind of that snowball effect. A little pebble starts rolling downhill, and it's just going to keep picking things up until finally it hits something. So it's just getting ahead of it and being proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. Remind me, did you do greeting last month? I feel like you did.
I might have. I don't think I did.
And I know you referenced something very similar, which I would have expected, which was great then, and it's great now. And I think out of our last conversation, and I'll say it again here, what we kind of came to is like, it's a really good, the language I used was it's sort of an anchoring point for the guest experience, right? That greeting. Like you said very well, and I'll echo it. It gives the opportunity for the guest to not go to social media per se, but go to us, right? We've created right off the get-go a greeting, welcome to Sky Zone, welcome to our house, essentially, right? Rolling out the red carpet treatment for them. Take your shoes off, enjoy, stay a while. Your place is our place, so on and so forth. And so I think it just creates an anchor point for the guest experience so that they can come back to us versus go to social media, like you said. So I know you said something about that last time, which was spot on then, and it's spot on now. So I appreciate the share. Very good. Cool. All right. So the other question I was going to ask really was, how are MODs or quarterbacks doing about not being behind the counter and reproducing the bad behavior that we're seeing in some of our cashiers or sales associates rather? Are they doing their part? And if not, what are we doing to try to coach the change for them not to be behind that counter between guests? How are we doing overall on that? I know you said you're struggling in Shelby Township to some degree, and I assume that's not just with your team, but it's with some of your managers, those that you still have left, right? You're probably struggling with that in Shelby, right, Steph?
Yes, I am, very much so.
It's still coachable. Coachable, it's a behavior piece for sure. I think it's just important that we are always right on it. You know, you hear me say it all the time. I'll say it once again. You know, as a leader, if you walk past a fallen standard, that becomes a new standard. And so we just can't allow those gaps to form in our standards. It's one thing to be just catching up on the day. Listen, we're a fun business. We're a sociable business. But to Devin's point, there's a big difference between being a social club and just being friendly with one another. And at the end of the day, we need to greet every guest every time. So awesome.
Yeah, I've used the orientation has been really helpful, because what we've been seeing here is the people that are getting shout outs in SMG is our newer employees. And they're taking to heart like those things like, hey, go out behind the counter and clean up. They're really doing those things. So the orientations and bringing on kind of the newer people has been a big help, because it's also pushed some other people to be a little better, because they see like, oh, these people are coming in here and they're trying to impress. And I've been making it a habit whenever we get a shout out from somebody in SMG, even if they didn't see their name tag, like they're like, I don't remember the name. I'll go in and look at the schedule, and then I'll point those people out so that the whole team is seeing me congratulating their behavior. And that's been a big thing. And I've had a couple of our more established staff that have been here longer. They're complaining about the fact that I've brought on more people. And I said, yeah, but part of that is because, and one of the guys is a basketball player. So I use the analogy with him. You know, you want those last people on your roster to be pushing the people that are considered the best on the team to be better. And those younger, newer hires are doing a great job. Really, even a couple of our managers have pointed it out that they're really stepping up. So my kind of thought with that is that the cream will rise to the top. And then eventually, if I'm going out and I'm telling people, hey, this is what we're expecting when it's not busy, it's like, I need you to be doing something that is productive for the business, whether that's restocking. And there's people that'll come up and say, hey, can I get wear some more stocks so I can stock the shelves? Or I'll see people go out and clean. And as soon as they hear the door chime, because we had a door chime, it wasn't working for a while, we got that fixed. So now you should be able to hear every time our door opens. And it creates that. I think, Lance, you've talked about the key is like you greet them within 7 seconds. So when you hear that chime, it gives you that time to walk over there, and it's not as soon as the door opens, you're yelling at them, you know, hi, welcome to Sky Zone. It gives a little bit of a pause as you're walking over, so it doesn't seem as rehearsed. So yeah, I've definitely noticed that coaching the behavior with the newer staff and getting them to set what that standard is and then complimenting them for doing that has been helpful for our team.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You said a lot of great points there. I think everybody on the call is going to want a door chime now, but kind of unique to your setup, you do have that door chime. You know, I think as a leader, knowing your audience, like you taking the context of, greeting every guest every time, or any other SMG callback or call out, a good one, celebration call out, kind of contextualizing that around who you have in front of you. In the case of the basketball player who's a team member, kind of using that basketball analogy was really just awesome. And yeah, just doing the positive reinforcement, I think, is really big too. So we know that, hey, when someone has a bad experience, we're going to hear about it. Just a saying, we should be hearing about those celebration alerts and making it known. On that note, and kind of moving quickly through it, but worth mentioning, how are you at your park? Not just you, Devin, but anybody on the line here, really all the parks I'd like to hear from. How are you largely making it known to your team when you get those celebration alerts? How is that being known? Is it just put in the break room? Is it being brought up in sky huddles? Maybe both? What are you guys doing?
I mean, what we're doing in Canton is, I mean, it gets put on the Sky Huddle if I get it the day of.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the SMGs, like I'm taking a screenshot of that celebration alert and posting it in there, and I'll tag the people. You know, we'll talk through certain things, and it's actually to a lot of the point that you guys have already brought up. Some of the newer staff members are kind of raising the floor, so to speak, for what the expectation is. Because we have a young lady named Grayson who has just come in and has been just a house of fire. Like she's coming in with so much energy. Like nobody showed her how to fix a pad yesterday. And she's going around and she's noticing, hey, this pad doesn't look right. I need to figure out what's going on with it. She's very inquisitive. And I had a parent pull me aside yesterday and say, hey, like, I don't know her name. He goes, but like, she is keeping my kids safe. And I just want to tell somebody just how impressed I am with her. And then just going straight up to her and just telling her right there in the moment, like, hey, like, I don't know if you realize this, but like people notice what you're doing. And I think it's incredibly impressive that like you're taking it upon yourself to do something you're not sure how to do. Because I don't remember like showing you how to fix this. And she goes, no, like I saw you fix it last week. And, you know, instead of waiting for you to tell me to fix it, like I'm going to fix it. But yeah, and then it seems like every other day I get something about Matt. So I think at this point, my staff are almost sick and tired because every time I post something, it's got to be Matt. And with him, he's very, very humble about it. So I sometimes will pick on him and say, hey, you know, I got this review for another employee. It looks like you have competition. You got to step it up. And then within 2 hours, I get another review about Matt. So it's just continue, just trying to bring forth some kind of friendly competition and just make it fun, you know, just to kind of bring up, you know, the core values again. It's because if they're having fun, they're going to look for ways that they can, you know, implement some kind of change, you know, to the business and help everything get better.
Awesome. Yeah, spot on. Is everyone else posting to their break room, doing it in the Sky Huddle, I'm assuming? I know I've seen them in break rooms before, but figured I'd ask about Sky Huddles.
They're not in the break room, but like the moment I get it, I screenshot it and post it in the WhatsApp and tag them.
Yeah.
And then we print them, laminate them, and give them out at the team meeting as well.
Awesome. Yeah, just some way to bring recognition to it. I mean, your break room is pretty much a phone booth, but you don't have a whole lot of wall space there when you have to get past all the legal stuff that you have to have posted in break rooms and whatnot. But no, I think that's great. The fact that it's on your radar and you know to do something with it. So awesome. All right. Well, for timing's sake, we'll kind of move on, guys. Appreciate you. So we're going to move into talking about, we're going to move right back to Stephanie actually here. And Stephanie's going to talk about knowledgeable team members. Again, kind of mixed results here from last month to this month. A few parks have gone up. And just as a reminder, guys, we showcase each other's results. It's never to shame anybody. It is to learn from one another and to grow from one another. So you may be at the low end of something percentages wise, but it's a work in progress and you won't always be in that spot, right? So again, we always kind of show each other's numbers, but it's never to shame. It is to learn though from one another. So go ahead and take it away, Stephanie. Talk about knowledgeable team members and what you might be doing on your end to improve that percentage, to work on it.
Yeah. So when you said this, I was like, this encompasses so much, from the knowledge of the team members for the programs going on to the rules, even the scores from SMG. And in Shelby, we have a lot of facets of communication, and we have the Sky Huddle, which is happening constantly. And when it isn't happening, it's happening with me, and when it's not happening with my managers, there's this continual follow-up with that. I kind of have my ear to the wheel, so to speak, or is it ear to the ground? I don't remember. Where I'm listening for, like, in my walkthroughs or my hourly checklist, I'm listening for what the team is doing, what the team is saying, listening to see if they are, they're operating correctly or saying the right things. And then if I'm finding that they aren't, and it's something that's just crazy, I address it with them. I address it with the team that's on the board right there or with me. I also, if it's a big enough thing, I address it on the WhatsApp chat, and then it gets addressed in the meeting. What I know as soon as I get my management team reestablished is when we're having the bi-weekly manager meetings, all that stuff's going to go to them, and then it's going to filter from me to them to the leads, and it's going to filter throughout, and it's going to stay that way. And they're going to hear it over and over and over again. That whole drumbeat thing has been just huge with me right now. The team probably has heard it more times than they'd like to. So actually, that is where I'm at with that. Just keeping that steady beat.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. Anybody have anything to add from a knowledgeable team member standpoint, things you're doing well with that, or areas of opportunity with knowledgeable team members that you know of?
In Madison, so like just something I noticed when I took over the park was that the people only knew what their job required them to know. So you have court monitors that only know stuff to court monitors. And then you realize like parents ask them certain questions. So they ask them questions about fuel zone. They ask them questions about pricing, about questions that would normally be handled by salespeople. So I just started pulling them around so that we could cross train them. Because when they're up there and the parents like, what's a pizza? And they're like, it's not that hard, man. It's $16.99. You can do the family meal deal for $19.99. Comes with a pitcher of soda. And just being able to answer those questions, it just helps, because then when they do get to fuel zone, all their questions are answered, and it's just a quick and easy process. So I just started noticing what questions my guests were asking people outside of their positions and paying attention to who could and who couldn't answer, and then just getting with them one-on-one.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's sort of that park blindness, store blindness that can kind of occur in the sense of like, well, yeah, court monitors really don't need to know much about sales associates, and sales associates don't need to know much about court monitoring, but the guest doesn't see it that way at all. They just see somebody in a team member shirt and they assume that they should know those things. And really they should. Like you said, it's not terribly difficult. It's just they're going to only, be able to communicate the things that we've actually given to them from a knowledge standpoint. So yeah, I think that's really smart. It's a good eye. Anything else for knowledgeable team members? We talked about cross training. Are we staying on top of like Sky Zone University and some of the other tools that we have to really drive that piece forward?
I was going to say that's the biggest missing, I think, opportunity for us is just we were not utilizing it as much as we needed to be. And obviously for the longest time, we didn't have access to it. And then it's going to be playing catch up, but it's really about, kind of setting, as we've mentioned, the drumbeat of, hey, this is the expectation, and just explaining to the team as they go through it, hey, you might have been here for 6 months. This is the expectation. We're going to be able to take something away from this, and getting them to buy into why we're doing it instead of treating it like, I've had some of my leads say, I don't understand why I need to do this. I've been here for a year. I already know everything. And then we put them on one Sky Zone University course and they're like, oh my gosh, I did not know this. It's like, it's exactly why we're doing it. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Sky Zone University is another opportunity for us. I went back and looked when I got access to it, and only like 5 or 6 of our almost 50 people were on it. So, with the whole trying to play catch up thing, I recognize that everybody needs it. So we're incorporating it into our next team meeting, and we're going to break people up based on their roles. So if they predominantly are a cashier, then we're going to have them spend like 10 to 15 minutes watching the piece that is relevant to what they're doing. And then we're going to rotate and have them do a shorter version with, like, if you're a court monitor, you'll spend most of your time on court monitoring, but you'll get a little piece of the sales and everything, so that you have an understanding of what's going on. And then eventually, if you become in that role, you kind of know, enough that it'll just be fine tuning some things. And I've also found doing the sky huddle, telling, like when we did the $10 Tuesday, telling the court monitors that was a thing. I think before nobody would have known that on the courts. So being able to share that information and just make sure, like, and I'll say to them, like, hey, this isn't, you're not going to be the one selling this, but here's what you should know about it. So that's been really helpful. And I think it's helped our team members have a better idea of what's going on in the park. And it doesn't create those silos of I'm up front, you're on the courts. It creates more of it's all of us together mentality. So I think that using the Sky Zone University trainings at our next team meeting and then doing the sky huddles is a key component for that.
Yeah, it's excellent. I mean, really having a systematic approach, working the plan, and the plan will work, right? So I can appreciate that. You got to break it down into manageable little chunks, but it sounds like you have a approach that you're going to take. So very cool. Very cool. Anything else on knowledgeable team members before we move on? All very good stuff. Got to catch the drum beat. All right. Moving on to our newest recruit, Tyler, which again, he's just getting his bearings, his first real day in the park today. And should be Tyler / Anna, because Anna's there. And she's also, of course, on the call as well. Not expecting a whole lot to come up and out of this section other than this is one area that I know you guys will have a high influence on. Anna already has, and Tyler for sure will. We're going to talk a little bit about cleanliness here. And again, some parks were really doing a great job on cleanliness, and they've come down a bit, as you can see there, Shelby Township being a prime example for that. But Madison actually came up 5%, so maybe Seville will have something to share there. But as far as Tyler and Anna, when it comes to cleanliness, and I know first time in the park, Tyler, so just as much I would be okay with Anna taking this over more than yourself in this case. Cleanliness, what are you guys seeing? What are some of the opportunities, and what are some of the things that you've learned here in the last little bit?
Okay. So one thing that I've noticed, like when I got here, is that like cleanliness, like they didn't really even have like a list to go off of. Like they were not even really eyeballing it, to be honest. Like, oh, like, hey, that table looks dirty, let's clean it. Like it wasn't just getting done. So one thing that I created, which I was going to show Tyler once we're done, I created a, like what I call the clean binder. Fenton has one, so they have one for like each day. I added the sheet that Wade had in the 12 systems, the daily task. And then that way they kind of have like a checklist of what they should be doing, like what needs to be done each day. That way, because like I get a lot of responses here, like, oh, nothing needs to be done, it's fine. And no, it needs to be done. That way they have a checklist. They can say like, oh, this has been checked off, we need to do this. Getting a lot of pushback about it, but I mean, I think once all the managers get on the same page and we're really like enforcing it, checking on it throughout the day, everything like that, I think it'll just help overall Milwaukee's score go up quite a bit. Even though it's just like the simple stuff like check the tables, check this, take out trash, all of that. So I'm interested. I know, like, I think I heard some of the parks do like the housekeeper position. I'd love to hear like what you guys have them doing like in that position as well, just to know throughout the day, because I think that would help here implementing that.
That's a great point. Anybody care to share?
Nah, I agree with Anna. Like a lot of it is just having those checklists and giving them things that they can access on their own. So every station that we're in, there's a cleaning task that can be done. And I think that doing it when you're busy too, finding the time, maybe covering your sales associates so that they can hit it, that's when the guests will see it. So we do two styles. We do it like once big groups leave, anybody that's kind of free just starts at the back of the park and works their way forward. And then while we're at our busiest, there's usually 2 people that are constantly doing housekeeping because the guest has to see it to reflect it to their visit. So
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. Too much of what you said, Anna, it's getting them to know not even in this case what great looks like, but what good looks like, right? What does clean look like? And sometimes let's take a picture. Hey, that's what my expectations are. And guess what? They're not just my expectations. It's actually Innovative Heights, Skies on Milwaukee's expectations. And really kind of setting those standards because and this actually happened in the Milwaukee Park about a month or so ago. I was with Wade and I was with Will at the time. Had one of your team members, and he might be around you, so I don't want to say his name out loud, but essentially he came back from saying he had cleaned some party rooms, and I think Wade thought it was pretty funny to some degree just because of my response, because he was dead set on the fact that this team member was dead set that he had cleaned them and cleaned them well. I knew they were in total disrepair, and he took a handful of minutes, which was far too fast to get the job done, and came back, oh yeah, no, they're clean. And I asked him again, are you sure about that they're clean? And something along the lines of, are they clean to this team member's names, standards, or are they clean to, my standards, which is the Innovative Heights standards? And he kind of did a double take and was like, all right, I'm going to get back out there and do another look, because if I go look, I want to make sure they're up to those standards or something along those lines. So it really is about showing them what clean looks like, showing them what good and even great looks like, and really setting those expectations. So, but the housekeeping piece, there are some parks that do that really well and have a plan and they work the plan. Any parks want to share on that briefly, what you do as far as the housekeeping position looks like in your park and what you do?
I mean,
I know you've done it before. Oh, there you go. I know you've done it on the weekends before where you're able.
It's because, I mean, we basically just, I hate saying lucked into it, but Logan has been doing a phenomenal job. And it's the biggest thing for him is he likes working at a frenetic pace. So he likes constantly moving, but also with that frenetic pace, sometimes you run into someone who's moving quickly. They skip over things. He spends a lot of time detail cleaning things. The biggest thing that we've had to kind of refocus him on is just saying, hey, spend a lot of time in that cafe lobby up on mezz, because we have kids dumping ices all over the place and they discolor the tables. But the big thing is if you aim him in a direction, like we talked about the respect training and fun nicknames, I've been calling him my Tasmanian devil, because you set him in a certain direction and he's off. He's on a warpath because he wants to do the best job that he can. And I mean, a really good example of that is Sunday, we had an issue with the women's bathroom, and he's going through, he's doing, the hourly rounds, he's doing all of this stuff. But it's the one thing he didn't think about is, hey, when I get done, I'm not comfortable going in. I need to tag out, just like Seville said, and kind of just, hey, can you, replace me here? I can go up to cash and cover that and have somebody go in there and double check that. And as soon as we hit that drum, he was on it, and it was his drum beat. And he likes having that ownership of, hey, it's my job. It's my job to keep this place clean. It's my job to hold other people accountable if I notice. Because the thing is again, he works that frenetic pace. He likes constantly moving. A lot of times when he's here, I don't need a greeter because he's up there and he's greeting people and he's making sure that they have what they need. Or he'll pop into cafe to help them. And if he notices, hey, Cy just dumped a bunch of cheese all over the floor, he'll almost get on him because he's like, hey, like, we need to clean that up, because if you don't, this is what's going to happen. And then we're going to have this issue, and then this is how it looks to the guest. And it's to be honest, he's taking extreme ownership of the park, and it's just amazing.
Awesome. So obviously he's on during those greater times of burden from a cleanliness standpoint, like the weekends, those high pressure times where things can kind of fall aside. It's not like a Tuesday, obviously. It's on the weekends, largely. Right?
Correct.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Patrick?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I couldn't hear you. No, I can hear you
Okay.
now.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, he's here typically Saturdays and Sundays because that's his availability.
Yep.
And then it's, Fridays we try to have one of our leads, designated for that position so that they're also, because again, they're hitting everything in the building. So, their eyes and ears are, very low. They're very focused. They're kind of just moving around. And then it's constantly coaching also in the moment. Hey, when you see something, say something.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And so as much as it is about placing someone in that position and kind of giving them some sort of routine, although it sounds like it's kind of marrying with like the hourly checklist. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're tying it right back to 12 systems, but really it's about the person in the position. And so it's marrying their passion and their purpose for why they're here. And out of that, you're getting a really good worker along the lines of the housekeeping position, right? So you're getting the results you're looking for, and you're just kind of marrying that person with what they're passionate about and their purpose on the day. So awesome. Does that help out, Anna?
Yeah. Now we have to find that person here. But yeah, I think that's like overall in the long run, it will help a lot, especially if we do find that one person, who's really good at the details and cleaning and all of that. Because a lot of our SMGs are about the cleanliness of everything, and like I try my best, like while I'm here, like to notice it or to pick it up, but like it just doesn't always happen. And to have those team members who would be there with me doing it, keeping an eye on it, would be even better.
Yeah, no, and I think the delicate balance with anything like that is just it doesn't absolve everyone else of cleanliness or cleaning or housekeeping, so to speak. Yes, someone has a more magnified role during those high pressing times, those high burden times in the business where we're that much busier, but everybody has a part to play in the area of cleanliness and taking care of business. No difference than maintenance, right? Everybody has a hand in making sure that the courts are functioning properly and knowing what to look for when things are not right. But obviously we may have more of a dedicated hand, and we do in the way of maintenance. Same thing as cleanliness during those busy weekends. So I'm always a little concerned with maybe people feeling absolved from a responsibility. No, everybody plays a part in cleanliness. Just in this case, a housekeeper has more of a detailed approach, more dedicated approach during those high pressure times. So awesome. Very good. Great conversation. And if there's anything else to share with that, Patrick, I know you guys do it really well. Again, sort of the methodology that you guys kind of in the approach, feel free to share that offline. But just for the sake of time, we'll kind of move on from there. But great question, Anna. All right. So cleanliness, obviously something we can continue to work on without hopefully eating up too much labor, right? We should be doing it through that hourly checklist walk and the 12 systems approach. Bringing up the rear here is actually going to be Patrick out here in Canton. I'm getting ready to celebrate his 1 year with us. Kudos to you, my friend. And we're talking about team member friendliness. Canton at a 51%, nipping at the heels of Shelby Township. They fell a little bit, whereas Madison and Milwaukee, Waukesha there, came up a little bit as well. And Grand Rapids kind of right there in the middle. So team member friendliness, pro tips, struggle areas, that sort of thing. Take it away, Patrick.
I mean, I would say the biggest thing with team member friendliness, it goes back, and obviously, as we've all talked about in the past, these things tie in together. It's really just making sure that the staff make themselves seem approachable. I hate, telling people, hey, you should smile more, but it's more of, hey, let's have good body language. Let's greet people as we're walking by. If we're in cafe, asking, hey, is there anything I can help with? Hey, can I help clean this up for you? Get this out of your way. And just really just have conversations. I never get tired talking about Matt. It's one of the reviews that I found going through to fill out that sheet that you asked us to earlier this week, Lance, was talking about Matt. And it was a Google review that I oversaw. I just didn't see it. And it's talking about how, there was a little girl that, got lost. Her dad couldn't find her. She couldn't find her dad. And Matt got down on her level talked to her, calmed her down, and then as soon as they turned around, Dad's right there. And Dad left a really awesome review about just what Matt did and just, how Matt was like super friendly, and he apologized to the dad, and just said, hey, your daughter was looking for you. She seemed a little out of it. I tried my best to help, but then it's also, it's just going through and just making sure that the people that we have on our team enjoy what they're doing. We have Max, who is just a ball of energy, and just, he loves refereeing dodgeball games. We have leads that are really, really passionate about helping people with their parties, getting checked in, helping them in the cafe, making suggestions, making accommodations if needed, and then just engaging with, especially the little ones on courts goes a long way with the parents, because the parents are coming in, just to have them come in and jump and just kind of burn off energy. And then if the kids are more focused on jumping on trampolines, they may not, be following the rules. And nobody enjoys, court monitors chasing after their kids saying, hey, you need to stop running. But when you engage them and ask, hey, what's the coolest thing you can do? Oh, you can do a front flip, show me. And then engaging with them and, tossing a dodgeball back and forth with them, softly, just really just keeping them engaged and keeping them moving just goes an immensely long way. It's huge.
Yeah. So you mentioned leads. If I may ask, how well, and this is for everybody really, what role does the lead play in your building towards taking the temperature with the guest experience, kind of coaching up on those rotations, and even not on the rotation, right? Up on the courts and really down below, but really on those courts where all the action's happening. How well are your leads currently doing to take the temperature and really coaching up your team to, deliver on a much friendlier, exciting experience?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely, it's hit and miss. It's kind of a, as you mentioned, temperature check. There's some that are much better, much more perceptive, I think, to those things. And then there's some that struggle with it a little bit more. They're more, focused on kind of the hard skills, so to speak, rather than the soft skills.
Yeah.
But for the most part, our leads are very attuned to kind of being very empathy first. So just listening, making sure that, we're paying attention to those little things that lead into the bigger things. And it's really just, I think it's, especially like coming from me, like empathy is just kind of, I view it as a superpower, and it's something, that I kind of just comes naturally to me. I just naturally want to help people, and I want to listen, and I want to be able to just get them to where they want to go. And then just, it's kind of just being the quarterback. You take the lead, you're the one that's kind of setting the tone for what's going to happen going forward, and then trusting that the leads are also going to do that. So it's really just, it's the idea that you want to get the right people on the bus. And then once you have the right people there, getting them in the right seats, which is why we're very careful about, promoting leads now. Because in the past, at one point we had, I think, 13 leads, which, hindsight being what it was, we might have needed it in that moment, but that was way too many. There's way too many, cooks in the kitchen. And now that we've kind of dwindled it back down and we've gotten kind of those focused roles, it also allows for them to coach each other more and be more focused on, hey, I noticed you kind of handled it this way. Let's be careful about the way that, the tone is, the inflection, just the words that you're using. Let's use this. And it's just constant coaching in the moment and just trying to innovate. So.
Absolutely. Time for just a little bit longer here. It's 2:10. I appreciate stretching you guys a little bit and that you guys are allowing me to stretch you a little bit. Obviously, we got a little bit of a later start, just waiting for everybody to get on the line here. But we're nearing the wrap-up point here. But real quick, Madison, you came up 8 points. Milwaukee, you came up 6 points. What's one thing you can just say, hey, here's the one thing that we are doing? Madison, Milwaukee, care to share? You guys have kind of come up in this area. Both of you have. So that's a win, right? What's one thing you're doing currently to move that number up that you know of? And you may not have that one thing right off the top of your head, but obviously something's shaking out there. You got a +8 in Madison and a +6 in Milwaukee, and you could just say, hey, we're actually just telling people to smile now. Something really basic, and that may be the answer. Maybe they just weren't smiling. But what's one thing you might be doing differently that we could learn from you?
I mean, I think for like Milwaukee wise, like I think just having like the manager out there with them kind of puts like a little pep in their step. They're like, oh, like try to seem like I'm doing my job. Try to seem, like I enjoy it here. Whether or not they do, I'm not sure. But like I notice like when I'm like if I'm in here, like if I'm doing something on the computer, like I can hear them talking out there. I don't think they realize that. But then as soon as I'm out there, they have their customer service voice on, and they're standing taller, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of what it is here, just like holding them accountable and like them knowing like, hey, my manager's always out here watching, like they can hear, like I think that's just it for Milwaukee. And I think we've weeded out some of the ones that might have been lowering our scores with the friendliness, so I think that might be helping as well. But other than that, I don't think there's anything like too specific.
Yeah, well, I mean that's actually that's exactly what I was looking for, right? It's quarterback presence, right? It's drawing accountability. It's really committing to standards and them knowing that you're going to follow up. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be anything like, wow, I've never heard this before. A lot of stuff we've all heard many times before, but that's kind of part of the magic behind it is we need to hear it again and again and again. And then sometimes it just lands differently. So, awesome. Anything on your end, Madison, to kind of bring this to an ending? The team member friendliness?
Nah, it's just one of those things we always talk about, like with the things that we can't control, like the attractions, all those other parts that play into guest experience. It's just super important that we're ensuring that we're being friendly, and at least on our end, when interacting with us, they're having a positive influence. And just coming from restaurants, that's one of those things where just no matter what the situation is, there's a friendly way to handle it. So even when the guest is upset, we just hold our composure, try to meet their needs, and then get them back smiling. But friendliness right now is the one thing we think we do have control over, because even we feel like our cleanliness is affected by things that are outside of our reach. But the friendliness, the knowledge, all of those parts that we can't control, we do our best to control.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate the share. It really is. There's lots of variables, and then there are those things that we do control. And so we got to kind of pick our battles just the same. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everyone giving your shares, and we went a little over time. Just kind of bringing up the tail end of this. OSAT comparisons, third quarter, second quarter. Next call is going to be September 15th. But before we move on to that, right now, taking the lead on OSAT, again, this is based on the Driving for Green initiative that goes out every Tuesday. It's reflective of that, the Going for Green. Canton, 50% right now. OSAT, Shelby with 45. Grand Rapids 44, Madison 37, Milwaukee, don't fret just yet. You're at 21, but you won't always be. I know you guys are going to turn that thing in the right direction. You already are. So keep at it, guys. Those are the OSAT comparisons. It is the guest perception is their reality, and somewhere in the mix there's truth. So you have to be real with where you're really at behind those SMG callback alerts and those celebration alerts. There is the truth in there too. So keep at it, guys. Beyond that, for the next call, we may not even cover these same topics, although I think they're extremely important. But there's a point in which I'm not saying there's not going to be anything new that we can kind of glean from these conversations. It's just we'll have some other things to talk about. So maybe we'll talk about unique challenges around driving birthday OSAT where we want it. We might talk about any one of the other observable metrics that come out of the SMG, the OSAT reporting that we get, or we'll just talk about just different friction points within the business that you guys are running into, especially as we kind of head into our busy season. So this call may morph and change as a result of that, but that's not because those 5 things that we've been talking about both on this call and the last call aren't important. It's just that there's other things that we need to discuss too. So, all right, anything else from you guys? All right, well, I'm happy to hear that the internet issues worked out in Grand Rapids. We got a third-party audit in Canton tomorrow, so wish Canton all the luck in the world.